Hello YouTube and YouTube subscribers. Today I'm going to bring you a species profile on the angelfish, Pterophyllum scalare. Now the angelfish is a cichlid, and there's also the marine fish. They're also called angelfish, but they do belong to the same order as this angelfish, Perchiformes, but they belong to a different family. I can't remember the family of the marine angelfishes currently, but do remember that your freshwater angelfish is a cichlid and should be treated as such. Now, in terms of size, this book actually says 5 inches, but I think the actual more legitimate size for a more wild type angelfish is about 6 inches or so. They're about 6 inches long. The one thing you have to factor in with angelfish is that they're deep. They can actually be a bit deeper than they are long. So you can have a fish that's 6 inches long and 7 inches deep. And you also have to, when housing these guys, you have to also factor in the total depth of the body is often twice or even more than twice the length of the body when you factor in the fins. So you're going to need to have a tank that's at least 50 centimeters deep, which I think that equates to about 18 inches or so. So if you're going to keep these guys, you keep them in groups, and you kind of just get a group and you just let them pick off their own, let them find their own mates that way. That's one of the best ways to breed them. You just let them pick off their own mates rather than forcing a pair. Which sexing these guys can be difficult because, unlike a lot of the other South American cichlids, they're pretty much androgynous. Except for the vent right here. There's a difference in the vent, which I can't actually name off the top of my head, but I'll put that in the description once I find that out, what the difference is between the vent of the male and the female. Also, some individuals may develop a little nuchal hump right here on the forehead, but that's not really associated with gender. That has more to do with age and growth. Now, in terms of compatibility, this fish is pretty peaceful, but can get pretty territorial, particularly when they spawn. The spawning pair, they can be aggressive towards your other angelfish, towards any other fish that threaten their fry. But overall, they're nowhere near as aggressive as some of the other cichlids that spawn in aquariums, such as convicts or firemouths. But um, it's pretty much a peaceful cichlid. It's a good community fish that you can also keep with fish much smaller than it, as long as you can't eat them. Now, by nature, these guys are actually a predator. And the reason why they're shaped like a dish is because they can quickly dart into reed-like plants to not only to ambush small fish, not only to chase and ambush small fish, but also to avoid predation from larger fish also. So that's one of the reasons why they're shaped like this. And in nature, they feed mainly on small fish and aquatic invertebrates. So it's largely a carnivorous fish. You know, I would say they could probably have some vegetable matter as their diet. So back to when it comes to compatibility, I keep these guys, if you want to do a South American theme, I keep them with large tetras. Other large crassins that don't nip fins, do not keep them with any fin nippers whatsoever, else you'll see these beautiful long ventral and dorsal fins disappear quite quickly. A lot of people I see also keep these with the big gouramis because they get along fairly well. They mix and match pretty well. Of course, you can keep them with loriocards, Pimeloidids, catfishes, Corydoras, lots of different types of barbs also. But keep in mind, this species is soft water, and they tend to like a higher temperature too. It's recommended to keep them at 24 to 30 degrees, and their water hardness is soft. So that can cause a problem when you're not keeping them with South American fish. Now, when it comes to what was I going to say? Why heck? I haven't done one of these in a while. I'm sorry, I'm a bit rusty. When it comes to the tank size for these guys, I see a lot of people keeping them in very tall tanks, like very tall, like 36-gallon hexagonal or octagonal tanks. They're really tall, but very short in terms of like swimming length. I don't recommend keeping these guys in a tall tank simply because they're not going to be as active. And if you keep them in a tall tank and they set up a territory in there with your other fish, you keep in mind their territories are measured in horizontal length, not the vertical depth. So basically, the whole tank is going to turn into their territory, and that causes issues too with our fish. So, I'm going to also mention that The non-fancy, less fancy breeds that tend to look more like this wild fish here. You know, the wild fish, the bars here are much blacker. This one's actually a younger one. They tend to grow larger than the more fancy breeds like these. These fancier ones, quite often when I see them, you don't see them being more than like 4 inches or so, but it seems to depend on the breed. And also, a lot of these fancier guys, some of them are a bit too, I guess you could say, too selectively bred, and they kind of suffer from inbreeding issues. So I'd recommend you kind of just go for, either go with fish that are quite close to a wild type, or go with fish that are basically mutts, mongrels, mixed breeds, because then they'll be healthier. So thanks for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe. There'll be more information on the angelfish in here. It's a good early cichlid, and it's also a good community fish too. So I would recommend the angelfish as long as you got a tank that's at least 50 centimeters deep, and probably I'd say about 36 gallons or so. You might be able to squeeze a pair with some other fish into a 30-gallon tank that matches the depth recommendation I gave. So I highly recommend the angelfish. Thanks for watching. Please rate, comment, and subscribe.